get your hair cut. Well, they're like you.
Hello and welcome to this Wednesday's edition of Movie News here at MBE. We'd just like to thank you once again for joining us live and interactive here on YouTube and of course our Twitch stream. As you can hear in the background, the hilarity has already begun. It's John C. Walsh, our co-host, and I'm Stephen John McLaughlin. How are you doing, John?
I'm
what
doing
are you doing?
good, Stephen, I look like Uncle Fester from the Addams Family now. I tacked my hair with a half guard on the clipper because I'm going bald as a coot. And I couldn't stand to look at that terrible little island. I see it. I see the island. So I just cracked my hair.
Something else I've noticed, I'm looking larger than life compared to yourself there. We're about out of scale at the moment. I can't go back any further. I've got a breakfast bar behind me which I can't remove.
Stephen, you look like the huge head from Doctor Who. I think it was Doctor Who. Oh, God, do you remember it? Oh,
yeah. Always a compliments from you, John. But we'll move on.
It's an impressive looking head. It's an impressive looking head. It looks better than me, Stephen. Jesus Christ, look at that.
I would rather be compared with Christopher Eccleston or someone like that. Not some huge head.
But anyway. Nobody listens to techno.
Anyway. Listen, we're going to move on quickly before we get down a rabbit hole. A very bald rabbit hole. But, John, Indiana Jones 5. This is what we're talking about. This is the headline. This is the thumbnail, folks. And it's all about James Mangold. Has he actually been confirmed as directing this film?
I think so.
It seems to be heavy rumours at the moment. Nothing's come out yet, has it? But James Mangold, did he reveal the sequel's settings? This is what Cinema Blend are posing here, John. And I'm just going to read a little bit of the article, not the screen grab you just saw there. The next Indiana Jones movie is happening. Harrison Ford will be back in the hat, but that's about the only thing that we expect to be familiar when we actually see the new film. For the first time, Steven Spielberg will not direct Ford, as Logan's James Mangold has been tapped to take over the franchise, and Mangold appears to have just revealed a little something about the next film, specifically its date and its location. James Mangold made an offhand comment on Twitter recently about how great he thought The Velvet Underground was. Yeah, I agree with him. The statement apparently came about because all the movies Mangold is currently working on are set in 1960s era New York City, which would seem to indicate that's where Indiana Jones 5 is set. And the tweet is there, John, if you just scroll up a little bit, and it's coming in from @Mangold, and it says, the Velvet Underground are fucking great. They are fucking great. You're right, James. Yeah. That's it. That's my tweet. Right. And in brackets, he said, note, I'm mentally living in the 60s NYC right now because that's where all the movies I'm working on take place. John, you can read a lot into a tweet, you know, and we don't really know what else he's doing. Well, I don't know what else he's doing, but it seems to indicate that part of Indiana Jones 5 could take place in New York City. Now, it does say that he's mentally living in the 60s NYC right now. If he was only working on Indiana Jones 5, that would indicate to me then that's clear as mud.
Yeah.
That's where we're going with the fifth instalment, and that's where we're going to stay. But the fact that he's got several projects on the go, we don't really know how long the film will be set in New York, if that is the case.
Well, Stephen, I'm looking at his IMDb just now, and he is working on Crenshaw and Juliet. Juliet is apparently, and I'm going to read the synopsis here, a romantic drama in which a woman learns she may be related to people who inspired one of the most tragic love stories of all time. So that could be set anywhere. Doesn't specifically have to be New York. The other one I'm trying to bring up, but I can't see it because my camera is in the way, so I'll look off screen as you do. It's Crenshaw. It's Jackson, a boy whose family has fallen on hard times, is visited by his imaginary friend, a giant cat named Crenshaw. Again, that could be anywhere. So it may just be coincidence that all of these movies are set in New York. It may just be that he's been taken to the literal. That's where all of his movies are taking place. In a literal sense, that's where the meat and bones of the script, where the storyboarding, the post-pre, whatever stage it's in, production is taking place. It doesn't mean the actual movie is set in 1960s New York. Although I have to say, Indiana Jones is the logical fit because it's set in the past. I think it was World War II.
The last one, Indiana Jones 4, the Crystal Skull one, was
50s.
1957,
Yeah,
I think. It was the late 50s.
The
We're
Duke.
talking maybe 13, 14 years since that movie. So it could be late 60s, early 70s. You've got that sort of room for playing about in that time period anyway. So you're absolutely right, John. It does seem to fit the mould of Indiana Jones, and being set in New York as well. I hope the film is set entirely in New York. I would like to see that. Something different, you know.
Well, I was going to say that to you, Stephen. Is that something that would tickle your fancy? The entire Indiana Jones movie being set in the confines of one city, albeit a huge, bustling city like New York, the city that never sleeps. Because traditionally, Indiana Jones movies have hopped all over the place, multiple locations.
Yeah.
He's been in planes with snakes and all sorts of other crazy shit. So it'd feel a little bit claustrophobic, a little bit contained if it was stuck in New York. But look, we've seen the likes of Keanu Reeves doing it in John Wick. It being stuck in the confines of one city, and it can be done. It can have scope. It just depends on the script and what it necessitates. If it does necessitate it being in an urban environment, it could work. I'd love to see it, just because in 1960s New York would be a cool little era to get back to. It was distinctly different to what we had just now. It was kind of grimy and dirty. I mind watching a guy, I don't know who it was, on Joe Rogan, speaking about New York in the 70s and the 60s and how it was a very violent place. You couldn't walk after dark or you'd get killed and things like that. So it sounds like an interesting environment for an older indie to begin back and maybe popping up in. And if they do look to bring back a Shia LaBeouf, we know he knows New York very well. He got arrested, didn't he? Going on a sort of rampage down Broadway or something. I think he came out. I think he tried to touch up Alan Cummings and ended up getting jailed by a police doing something with the police. So
it's a film itself.
So Shia could step right in and play Shia.
Saturday night on Broadway.
It's Saturday night on Broadway. Yeah. Apparently
there hasn't been any indication that Shia LaBeouf is coming back, though, is there? There's no confirmation of that.
Sadly not.
The other interesting...
Shia's not coming back anywhere, Stephen. He's dotted.
No.
Did you see that thing
Well,
on
they
Twitter?
did that film, the Peanut Butter Falcon one, or whatever it's called.
That was prior to the
couple of years ago.
allegations. The allegations.
But the other thing, John, obviously it's confirmed that Steven Spielberg's not come back. How does this change anything for yourself in terms of what you see this movie?
No, because Spielberg, he goes and does his own things. There's a lot of projects and many franchises that guy's been connected to over the years, and he stepped away, and it's not diminished any. He'll do his own thing. He's, I think, more independent thinking now. He's doing his own independent little stories, the likes of what was it, Post, was it? The one with Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep. He done Ready Player One. He's worked on West Side Story, I think it is, the remake. It's been delayed. That was pretty good, to be fair. So he's doing
got his
that now.
World War
He's got his World War II
comic book
movie, So he's doing sides, little contained things. He's not going back to pre-established franchises. It's like James Cameron in Terminator. He lays the foundation, then goes away and hopes that the people who have grasped the baton after him can do a good job. And look, James Mangold can certainly do a good job. He's a fantastic filmmaker in general, not just director, producer, everything. Look at Logan.
Well, Spielberg did it with the Jurassic Park franchise, John, for the Jurassic World trilogy. You know, he stepped away.
Didn't end well, did it?
It doesn't end well, John, but it's very hard to... Listen, you know my views on Jurassic Park. I think out of 5 films so far...
1, 2.
I only think the first one's a really good film. The rest are pale in comparison. But that's my opinion.
Jurassic World, Jurassic World with Chris Pratt, that was decent. The remake from G.A. Fiona, that was fine. It ended up going downhill when it went to the mansion the second half. But yeah, you're right. Hopefully this isn't going to be like Jurassic World or Jurassic Park, but you seen the Kingdom of the what was it, Crystal Skull? It was
Crystal Skull,
awful. So
yeah, it's terrible.
We need to be sending Harrison Ford off in a better note than that. We have to be improving what we got in that movie, and we can't do worse, can we? If you've got Mangold in, that's one step in the right direction for me.
Yeah.
But look, that great nuke scene.
The intro,
one was decent, wasn't it?
The refrigerator was excellent. Yeah, John, if Mangold can bring that sort of same tone and pacing that he did to Logan, then we're on to a winner. Would I like to see Indiana Jones pass away? I don't know about that. I don't think I can handle that It's bad enough seeing Han Solo die on screen, so I don't think I can handle that. Hopefully, that's not going to be the road to go down. But Harrison Ford's views on Indiana Jones are a lot different to his views on Han Solo. Strangely, I can't understand it myself.
Well,
But
Steve,
listen, he knows the characters better than anyone.
yeah, I think I understand it because Indiana Jones always had more scope to continue on. He was the main man. He wasn't a bit part player. Star Wars, he was done. He was a superfluous character. I always said that he was the enabler for Obi-Wan and Luke to get to Leia to continue the heroic sort of arc of Luke Skywalker, the Skywalker saga. It was never about Han Solo, and Lucas just couldn't bring it. He just couldn't bring himself to kill the character off. He wanted it to be fluffy and light and airy. He was absolutely right. Was it what was his name again? Kurtz, Gary Kurtz. Was it Gary?
Kurtz, yeah.
And Ford also wanted to kill the character off because it would have made the stakes higher. They've added a darker tone to the Empire Strikes Back. They never done it, and he never had that connection with the character. The character wasn't going anywhere. Indiana Jones, he was always the man, and there was always scope for more movies, and it tested him. He could do different things. So I understand why he likes that character more. I personally like that character more. I've got to be honest with you. I can take a leaf, Han Solo. Controversial, I know.
I know. I could take a leave Indiana Jones, John. I really could. I like the first three films. The third one seems to be my favourite for some strange reason. It doesn't seem to be everyone's cup of tea. Something about The Last Crusade, Sean Connery in there, does it for me. The story's amazing as well. Everything about it, it's non-stop action. And the dialogue between both Harrison Ford and Sean Connery will never be matched again, And I think between that and then the sort of big gap between the third film and the fourth film didn't help the fourth films in any case. But there's something off about the fourth installment, which I hope James Mangold will stay away from. He'll not try and use any of those formulas they used in that fourth installment. I found that they were trying to be funny too much. The story as well was a little bit, the alien thing and stuff, I just felt it was a little bit off. And some of the casting choices as well.
Yeah. Indy always had the humour, though. It always had the humour, but it wasn't on the nose humour. It was like Last Crusade, he rolls off the cliff, comes back up, they're mourning him, and he's standing behind them. Things like that was subtle.
Yeah,
exactly. On the nose, that latest one, and they need to get that balance back. It's like Star Wars.
Well, that's
you have to
exactly.
Go back to the roots, and hopefully they do.
But we're going to move on anyway, John, to our next topic. I'm sure we'll hear more about Indiana Jones 5 as the months roll merrily forward, but it's all about Black Widow.
Can hope.
And Marvel has no plans to release Black Widow on Disney Plus. This is coming in from Screen Rant, John, and I'm just going to read a couple of paragraphs of this just to sort of build the picture where we're at with the film and where we were at last year with the film as well. It's absolutely crazy. But rumours of Black Widow switching tracks and becoming a Disney Plus release have swirled ever since the Marvel's film's first delay in March of last year. Several studios have adopted streaming strategies amid the pandemic, and whether it's individual examples such as Disney's Mulan and Soul, or more sweeping measures like Warner Bros. Plan to send every 2021 movie to HBO Max and theatres on the same day, Black Widow is currently scheduled for release on May 7th, but many believe yet another delay is likely. This has once again made fans wonder if a Disney Plus release is on the horizon. A new report from THR indicates this isn't likely. While discussing how many major studios are holding their biggest films for when theatres are back to relative normal, it's mentioned insiders with knowledge of the situation say there are no plans to ship Black Widow off to Disney Plus. It says nothing about another release delay, but evidently, even if Black Widow does get bumped, fans shouldn't expect a Disney Plus debut. Which suggests to me if it doesn't make this latest date, John, it's just going to get rescheduled again.
Which is bad, Stephen. I spoke about this briefly the other day. Why, if this movie has to be pushed one more time, it's one more time too much. People are not really, I can only speak for myself, I'm not going to speak for people in general, but I don't really care about this character now. This character's dead. It's not going anywhere in the future. The one element of this movie that does intrigue me is the Florence Pugh, Yelena character, because it does have somewhere to go in the future, and she's already been speaking about coming into the greater MCU, so that's one element which perhaps may have to be seen on a big screen. But all in all, I think if this movie gets delayed one more time, they should just bite the bullet, get it out in the streaming service, premium rental, premium VOD, whatever the hell you want to call it. What they're doing with the Rare, is it? The one I spoke about last night in The Last Dragon, and what they're doing with Mulan. $29 price point. Get people watching it, get the money in, and be done with it, and move on to Shang-Chi, Eternals, Spider-Man 3, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, all these great projects that are evolving and moving the MCU forward. This character's dead.
John, I would agree with that if they'd done it in the first place.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. The interest in the character will diminish as the months roll forward. Unfortunately, I feel that with Black Widow's sacrifice in Endgame, you know, we didn't know what was going to happen with the pandemic. We didn't know how the world was going to be. But I can bet, and you can bet your bottom dollar as well, that Marvel Studios, in their minds, was Black Widow was going to be the first release after Phase 4 because, you know, the character is on a high. Everyone's talking about Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson's performance in Endgame, the sacrifice. This is the perfect time to do this prequel film. That was fine then, but now it's kind of just the interest is diminishing. I'm not saying that people aren't going to watch this film. I'm looking forward to seeing this film, John, but am I excited as I was when it was first scheduled last May or March or whatever it was, 2020? Certainly not. It's getting to the point now I'm past caring. I will watch the film. Yeah, I will watch the film when it comes out, John, and I know I'll enjoy it because I like the character. I like Scarlett Johansson. As an actor.
Looks cool as a villain.
The cast looks fantastic, John.
Coming in as the Red Guardian or whatever he is. So
I think you're right. The momentum is lost on the character, sadly.
It is. Stephen, the character died. It was a tragic death, and obviously they wanted to throw Scarlett Johansson a bone because she's a big actor, and they felt guilty in some level of not giving her their own standalone movie at some point. And look, it would have been progressive if they had got in ahead of Patty Jenkins' DC and the Wonder Woman thing, but they didn't. The character's dead, and it felt tacked on. It felt like, as I keep saying, throwing her a bone after they killed her off, give you a movie, see you off into the sunset. There's no place for this character now in the future of the MCU unless they can find a way to bring her back, and I wouldn't want to see that. So ultimately, I only really care about movies that are progressing the story in the MCU moving forward. This ain't. I keep saying with the caveat that the Elena, whatever her name is, character played by Florence Pugh, that could have ramifications for the future. So that aside, I'd rather just see it on the streaming service, but they're not going to do it. They're going to wait.
No.
And look, you've got to commend them. They're sticking to their strategy. Universal have theirs. They have their deal with AMC. HBO have their deal with, Warner Brothers. They're the same company. I'm talking absolute nonsense. So Disney have their strategy, so fair enough. We'll see who is the victor when this is all over, because things ain't getting better in the next 6 months or so. That's clear. We've got crazy shit going on over in Brazil. We're still shut down here. Vaccines are rolling out. It's not really making much of a difference. We ain't getting enough theatre for the next 3 months at the very least.
No.
Dare I say it, 4, 5, maybe 6 months. So they're just going to be delaying it and delaying it and delaying it. And if this starts bumping into the likes of Shang-Chi and Eternals, I know what preference I'd have. I'd have preference for those ones as opposed to this, getting a theatre release. Just get this out of the way, get it onto the streaming service. But time will tell, man. Time will tell.
Time will tell, John. It would have been... I still feel, and I know it's in hindsight now, and it's very easy for me to say this now that, you know, after everything's happened, but, you know, to close off Phase 4 after Endgame, I would have stopped at Endgame, but they wanted that one last film and they got Spider-Man Far From Home. I'd have had Black Widow in there instead of Spider-Man, to be honest with you, and that would have been nicely rounding it off. Yeah. But they didn't want to do that. They wanted to, you know, have a more upbeat film, you know, something a bit more lighter than what we got in Endgame and everything that happened in that. And
they've traditionally done that, Stephen, with Ant-Man.
Yeah, well, exactly, Ant-Man, exactly, John. You know, and it's just one of those things. We'll just have to wait and see what they're going to do. I still hope that we'll see it in the cinema, but my anticipation for it has diminished slightly. But John, we'll move on to our next topic, and it's coming in from Cinema Blend. It's why the Five Bloods Delroy Lindo appreciated Chadwick Boseman on set. Now, we reviewed this film, John, last year, I should say. I'm saying this year. It was last year.
Yes.
But, yeah, it was in the summer of last year we reviewed it. It was on Netflix, I'm sure.
Yep.
And thoroughly enjoyed it. But I'll just read this little caption here coming in from Delroy Lindo, and it's during an actors' roundtable held by the Los Angeles Times.
Oh,
A group of
that?
actors, including
Delroy
Lindo,
I love those.
has the usual conversations you expect to happen around this time of year. Sadly, with Chadwick Boseman's untimely passing in 2020, part of that talk was reserved for how everyone present missed his presence, especially in the light of his luminary final performance delivery in the past year. But when it came to Lindo's recollections of working with his co-star on Defy Bloods, he recalled the following story as why he was so appreciative of his fellow actor, and the actor had this to say. The thing that I really valued enormously is the fact that Chadwick was open and welcoming to my son on set, which is indicative for me of the depth of his empathy. On top of that was the enormity and the magnitude of his talent. The very first scene that he worked on in the film with me was the scene that takes place at the end, when his character and my character come together at the stream. That was his first day at work. He and I had met very, very briefly for 5 or 10 minutes prior to our working on this scene, and he brought it. He was prepared, he was committed, he was in it. John, it's funny, looking back on the film, and I don't know if we mentioned it in the review or not, the chemistry between both actors. I always felt that they had spent some time together prior to shooting the film. Yep. There was just this chemistry between them. They knew each other. There was that look in their eye between both actors. Obviously, the performance is that convincing, you would believe that. But Chadwick Boseman in the film, he's barely in the film. Let's get that out there for anyone that's not seen the film. At that time, we didn't obviously know his medical condition either. But there's something about
I noticed the weight loss though.
The weight, yeah, John.
It was
just
done it for the role because it was 70s,
for the role,
60s,
yeah.
70s. It was Vietnam.
Exactly.
That was the way
but there was something
back then.
There was something about both those actors' performances in that film, as brief as it was, so memorable and so believable as well. And bear in mind, for anyone that's not seen the film, the 5 actors, or 4 actors, sorry, if I'm counting it right, were older than obviously Chadwick Boseman's character. And when they did the flashback scenes, they didn't bother recasting. They used exactly the same actors for those scenes as well. And it worked. That's just the talent of the cast,
Steve,
to make you believe that. It did. It wasn't jarring, John. That was the most important thing.
It was a movie about post-traumatic stress. Delroy Lindo's character not getting over the loss of his friend and eating at him and haunting him. So for them to be older, it almost worked better for me in a way. And also, it could have been bad because they were older. It could have bogged down the action sequences, them being cumbersome and a little bit, dare I say it, geriatric. They're not geriatric, I know. But it didn't. It worked really, really well. These guys were getting back older, wiser, grizzly, and they were finding their youth again with Storm and Norman appearing and sort of, I don't know, hallucinogenic scenes, I want to say, borderline haunting them. And obviously, it's amazing. I didn't realise the chronology of how this movie was shot. And at that end sequence when he's almost like Jesus and the light's shining on him, and he has that meeting with the Delroy Lindo character, whose name I'm completely blanking on at the moment. It's been about a year since I watched it, to be fair.
Paul, I think it was.
Was it Paul?
Yeah.
That was a stupendous scene. So again, that just speaks volumes for the kind of actor that Chadwick Boseman was. He could go on the set, dealing with all of the shit he was dealing with, dying with this horrendous cancer, and he could deliver a performance like that, so authentic. Have that chemistry, as you says, and keep coming back and giving amazing performances day in, day out. And look, I say day in, day out. It probably wasn't day in, day out, because as you do allude to, he was in the movie in spurts. But I have to say, aside from Delroy Lindo, I think he was a standout in the movie. Unbelievable. Just his monologues, his speeches. About, I can't recall the actual speech, but he gave an amazing speech about we was the first to die for this country. We're taking the gold and stuff like that. It was an amazing speech, an amazing performance. Yeah. All the more poignant now when you realise what the guy was going through, the bravery and the just incredible fortitude this guy had. Stan, I've been watching lots of videos recently. They've been bizarrely recommending me videos on YouTube of people swanning around his family graveside. He's got a family, the Bosemans have this huge graveyard thing, and then I've been getting recommended it. But again, it's still so hard to imagine this guy's gone, man. I mean, it's 4 months now, 5 months. It's incredible to imagine a guy with such vitality, such amazing just humanitarian things and acting. This guy's gone. But as you can see, he left a touching legacy. You see it with Denzel, you see it with the people he impacted on, and now you're seeing it with Delroy Lindo. I hope Delroy gets the Oscar nod. I know it's coming up.
I was going to mention that next, John. I was going to ask, do you think there'll be a place for Chadwick Boseman in there as well?
I think posthumously he may get some sort of honorary, if I can speak, award.
Recognition,
We've seen that before. We've seen honorary awards given to people who have sadly passed away. I think he could. I think he definitely deserves recognition, not just for his acting. The guy delivered time and again in every one of his movies. Fairly short career. All of his movies are standouts. They're all very different. Brave decisions, playing historical black figures and things like that.
Yeah.
But his humanitarian work and his work with the community stuff off the screen, just a great guy. He deserves some recognition. Delroy deserves a recognition as well. I've seen people speaking about various different movies. I was listening to it on the radio the other day. This guy deserves the Oscar for me, just for that performance. It was amazing. Yeah. Speaking to the camera.
It was emotional, John. Yeah, it was fantastic. Powerful. It was powerful. It really hit home, his performance. Just a very tragic figure. Yeah. Troubled man. His relationship with his on-screen son as well was complicated, to say the least. His relationship with the other guys as well. You could sense a sort of there's a resentment for others in the group that have probably progressed a little bit more successfully in life after the war. You can see that resentment in Paul's eyes, and he makes some comments very early on as well. It turns out that the guy that he's very resentful against hasn't got a dime. He's living off a credit card. He's in debt. And that's one of the reasons he goes back to retrieve the gold. But all these little side stories, John, which made that film so interesting to me. You've got that cast in there as well, and it's going to be very interesting to see when it comes round the Academy Awards how they will be honoured. But we're going to move on, John, to our final topic.
Just get a random bit of breaking news there, Stephen, that Cloris Leachman passed away on my watch here. Cloris Leachman of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid fame and things like that. She's passed away at 93, 94.
93. Jeez,
there's another classic actor gone.
Yeah. John, it's happening all the time, I'm afraid.
Certainly
time catches up with us all, but I'm pretty sure maybe once the dust settles, you maybe want to talk about that tomorrow's show. I don't know. I'm not speaking for you, but yeah, why not?
I don't know enough about her, Steve. She's an Oscar-winning actor. I know some of the more modern movies, but certainly not some of the classic ones going way back, Lassie and things like that. But she's been around, great actor, sad to see.
Yeah, one of these days we'll get round to doing that ticker tape, John. We can have the breaking news coming up on the screen.
I need to work out how to do that. It's easy. I see so many channels doing it. It must be easy to do. We'll get that there instead of that shit graphic down there.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
But anyway, I need to try to come up with wordings for.
Kristen Stewart's debut in her Diana look, John. This is a first look at Kristen Stewart as Princess Diana in Spencer. I think that's what it's called anyway. And this is coming from Screen Rant. Now, John, we'll talk about the image in a little moment on the site on screenrant.com. But the first look at Kristen Stewart's upcoming film Spencer shows off her look as Princess Diana. The biopic is directed by Pablo Larraín, whose last biopic, Jackie, starred Natalie Portman as Jackie Kennedy and landed Portman a Best Actress Oscar nomination. Spencer will follow Princess Diana during one of her last Christmases with the royal family, as she mulls her impending separation from Prince Charles. The film began shooting earlier this year. To prepare for the role, Stewart watched The Crown Season 4, the Netflix show featuring Emma Corrin as the People's Princess, in its most recent season in what has become an acclaimed role for the actress. The resurgence of interest in Princess Diana's life has seemingly been spurred by The Crown, and now Stewart will bring her own iteration of the iconic figure to life. It's good timing for Kristen Stewart, to really make her own mark on the role as well. John, I don't really want to get into the whole we're not royalists and all that kind of thing. We're here to talk about films. And John, whether you like it or not, Princess Diana had a very interesting life. You might agree, you might disagree with a lot of her choices in life.
Yeah, married Charles.
But the fact that she the fact that this film, from Pablo Larraín, is going to focus on a weekend, which surprised me because there's a lot happened in that lady's life, her very short life, and they're focusing on one of the last Christmases that she spent with the royal family, which I would assume it's going to be a family affair. You're going to get her spending time with obviously her sons, with her estranged husband, her estranged mother-in-law, the Queen.
To the Queen.
So,
Lizzie. Hey.
but on a more personal level, John,
yeah,
and
Lizzie.
more looking at Kristen Stewart's career as well, I've always felt that her career has been very hot and cold. She does a really great film, she does a really bad film, she does a really great film, she does a really bad film, but this one could really steer her in the direction. It does say here, no, it didn't do Natalie Portman any harm, when she did the Jackie Kennedy role, and it's the same director. And also, with the buzz about The Crown Season 4, the latest offering from Netflix, getting well received, there is that buzz again if you're into that kind of thing. So I think the timing of this could actually help her career progress even further.
Stephen, it could. I'm smiling. It's not because of Prince Diana or Kristen Stewart. It's because I looked at the monitor there. And I seen a very different lighting setup to what we have in this. As you know, the colour is not represented quite as accurately in the middle monitor. I look like Yul Brynner. I always says I wanted to have Yul Brynner tan. I looked at that and I can see a slap head with the headphones on. I'm Yul Brynner now. Yes. So there we go. I've got my dream, if nothing else. I can look like Yul Brynner. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I wanted the colour. I didn't want the slap head. I've got the slap head. I've not got the colour. But look, I digress. Let's move on. I'm a big... What can I say? I'm a big... what is it? The Ten Commandments?
Yes.
I'm a big Ten Commandments fan. What can I say? But I digress, man. Charlton Heston as well. Who can forget Charlton Heston? What an actor. But look, I digress. Christian Stewart as Diana Spencer. Stephen, you're right. It's a very interesting choice to go down the weekend route, focusing on the weekend, the last Christmas, if you like, in this sort of unit, the royal family. Moon unit, some would say. Me. And it's an interesting choice because obviously, as you did say, she had such a colourful life. She done a lot of humanitarian work. She went to Africa, worked with little kids and things like that who were disadvantaged. She was, by all accounts, a very decent human being. So they could have delved into a sort of more wide-scoping biopic, but they've not went for that. They've went for what looks to be a more intimate tale of the deconstruction of her relationship with not only Charles but the family itself, the royal family, how that's impacted on her two sons. And that's an interesting concept, and that'll probably make it for a more drama-driven story, and that'll probably make it for a chance at Oscar buzz for Kristen Stewart, because if she can nail this, we've seen it with the Maggie Thatcher movie, and we've seen it with the Queen movie. You can see my complete disdain for the boot that was Margaret Thatcher, and I will call her a boot because she was a boot. And thank God she's dead. And I don't wish death on anybody, but I change for her. I do for her because she was an absolute scumbag. But what a let's get off my political soapbox.
I'll get you off it now. The image of Kristen Stewart, that image that's on the website just now on Screen Rant. What do you make of that? I can't believe how striking she looks. How identical she looks to Princess Diana. She
does. She looks very accurate. It looks like it's a good period piece in terms of the clothes and stuff like that. It's quite a lot of attention to detail. And what Stephen, you says about Kristen Stewart, she's had a strange career. She's worked in Charlie's Angels. She's been in Twilight, I think, with Bobby Pattinson. And she's done a wide variety of roles. This is the first time I've seen her... Panic Room, yeah, this is the first time I've seen her really delve into a movie of this out, a serious drama-driven movie. She's certainly not Robert Pattinson. Let's get that straight. Robert's went off and sort of restarted his career. He's went off and done independent work with some of the best directors on the planet, and he's rejigged and rejuvenated his entire career. She's went down a different route. I wish her all the success in the world. I hope it's an interesting movie. I like period pieces. I'm not a huge fan of the monarchy, as you do know. I know you're not either. But as you did say, that's not what this is about. But as an aside to that, I do like watching movies about it. I like The King's Speech with Colin Firth. I'm going to watch The Crown because by all accounts it's rubbing the royal family up the wrong way, specifically Charles. Charles is not very happy about the fact... I don't know what that doesn't sound like Prince Charles. Prince Charles is not very happy about the crown. Well, that makes me happy. Because he's been portrayed as a Hoormeister, because he was a Hoormeister. He was floating around with Camilla when he was married to a much better looking woman than Diana. So I may watch The Crown. What I'm getting at is I can put my differences aside and I can actually watch projects based on these people. And I will certainly give this a bash. Look, I liked Victoria and Abdul as well. That was a great movie with Judi Dench about Queen Victoria. I like these movies. I like period pieces. And I vividly recall seeing the tributes when Diana passed away, 98 I think it was. I was 9 years old. I remember coming down, hearing about the news of her passing away. I remember the amazing array of flowers that had been laid out, and the grief in England, more specifically, probably less so Scotland. She was the people's princess. She touched a lot of people, not me particularly, but so it'll be interesting. As I was saying, I didn't give a shit, Stephen, that's the truth. Didn't really care either way. It didn't impact on my life at all. But it will be interesting. Kristen Stewart, hopefully she does well. But yeah, I'm done.
I'm done.
Good luck clipping that one, Stephen. I've had anti-monarchy speeches with an anti-Margaret Thatcher. How I managed to get a Margaret Thatcher insult in there is beyond me. Ding dong, the witch's deed. Ding dong, wicked Thatcher's deed. As great Brian Lemon likes to sing on Twitch at times. Love that guy. But look, I digress, man. That's going to round the show up. What is your thoughts on the topics we have touched upon on the show tonight? What do you make about that headline, which I'm going to look up just now? Indiana Jones being potentially set in 1960s New York. What do you make about that? What do you make about all of the other topics? Black Widow not getting put on Disney Plus, and all of the other stuff, the Princess Diana, Kristen Stewart stuff, and everything else above. You can comment below if you've got anything to say down below in the comments section. You can also like the video if you've enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. Also hit the follow button on Twitch as well if you've been watching us over there. You'll see more content if you do, and that's always a good thing if you've enjoyed what you've seen. But look guys, until then, bye bye. Ding dong, Thatcher's deed. Ding dong, wicked Thatcher's deed. Ding dong, wicked Thatcher's deed.